Alright, good afternoon everyone. My name is Joshua Fekes Quest here with Octavian. Welcome to the final playoff game, or at least the quarterfinal game I should say, of the Collegiate Star League. And it is going to be between McMaster University and Carnegie Mellon. Two big powerhouses. Most of the other, this is probably going to be the most competitive game we see today. Most of the other games have had odds-on favorites. Today, it's not really an odds-on favorite. Both these teams, pretty incredible, Octavian.
Yeah, from what you told me earlier, there's only a single loss between these two teams. So one or the other is going to be getting a dent on their shiny, almost perfect or perfect records, as we do have to have a winner at the end of this.
Yeah, yes, we do. And the winner actually will be facing Robert Morris University as they did topple North Carolina State University yesterday to advance on to the semifinals. So one of these teams will be meeting Robert Morris University in Austin, Texas at DreamHack. We have our first lock-in, though. Mega Zero locking in the Azir, more than likely for Quicks over in the mid lane.
And I'm really not surprised at this. I actually was doing a little bit of snooping, and I noticed that Duosec, the mid laner on the side of McMaster, is actually a really, really solid Azir player. But Quicks has played it a few times as well. So the fact that Quicks is familiar with the champion and can run it decently well enough makes it a really good steal because they're taking it away from Duosec, who seems to be really familiar on that champ.
Right, and you also notice that they've done quite a bit of research on each other, obviously. Yeah, the Azir being one of them as well. But let's look at the Janna mechanic bands. Janna, obviously, his name's Janna Mechanics. He's a really good Janna mechanic, or Janna player. He has Janna Mechanics for crying out loud. But also a pretty decent Soraka player as well. So giving some appreciation over to Janna Mechanics on McMaster and banning away two supports, also taking the rise away from Duosec. But with that being said, you have to leave up Kindred as well, and that allows McMaster's Devise to pick up Kindred, and of course Tall White Bro picking up Jhin.
Yeah, and the Jhin is another pick that I am not too surprised at because, again, both of these AD carries seem to be pretty prolific Jhin players just from taking a few glances around their profiles in the client even. So I expected that to be a contested pick. Maybe not so contested that it gets picked up in the first round of 3 picks here, but that's simply because of the nature of Jhin. He's relatively easy to counter if you do pick him early, but they're putting a lot of priority on that.
Yeah, to be fair, they're not giving away too much. They can still counterpick the mid lane, considering it was first pick, so they don't have to really prioritize that right now. Also, they have a top lane. Looks like that might be a top lane Nautilus for Carnegie Mellon, unless Mino Haxor decides to play Nautilus in the support role. It is technically a flex pick, but we do see more Nautilus these days up in the top lane.
hmm And the hover on Fizz. Fizz would be an interesting pick. It would. I'm not entirely sure where it would go. That would likely be a lane Fizz if we did see it locked in.
I don't know how Fizz does against an Azir.
I imagine in the early levels he would get bullied backwards, as Azir is very good at that. But later on, if he can time Playful Trickster to avoid Emperor's Divide, then that's going to be a 1v1 really solidly in favor of the Fizz. So I think it's a skill matchup, but there's real potential for Duosec to absolutely dominate in that matchup.
Yeah, now the one thing that having a Fizz locked in here, if you don't really do well against an Azir, you have the tankiness of a Rek'Sai and the tankiness of a Nautilus to get through as well to get back to the squishy support and squishy ADC, Coggles and Mino Haxor. So Fizz, I think that's actually kind of a risky pick. So far, there's a big front line coming out from Carnegie Mellon. They have a pretty solid team comp coming out. They have Wave Clear, and they have Siege. It's looking pretty good right now. But on the other side for McMaster, they're going for a very individual play, and they also can reset some fights with the Lamb's Respite from Kindred.
Out of all these hovered AD carries we've seen so far, I like Lucian the best, and it seems like Coggles agrees, as that's the one he's on right now, timing down into the pick. And that will be a Nautilus top lane as the Morgana gets locked in. Though I suppose Morgana as well has seen play in top lane once or twice, but more than likely is going to be a support.
Yeah, I would definitely say it's a support. You're going to want, especially against a Nami, you're going to want to have a Black Shield there for Coggles. He can use his dash to try to get away from that, but he could also just save that and use a Black Shield. It's a lot easier just to do that. And I like the Morgana pick considering the Fizz. Chum of the Waters is such a huge part of his combo. If you can deny him that, or at least keep the slow away from Coggles, so he can at least get away from Playful Trickster. It might help out, help counter initiate Duo Sex Fizz quite a bit. But hold on, that might be a top lane Fizz, honestly. And having Duosec with Lissandra here, that would be pretty huge.
Yeah, Lissandra's actually becoming sort of not really a counter pick, but an even pick up against an Azir. To some degree, a counter pick, mainly just because Glacial Path does not get interrupted by Azir's ulti. So if you want to fight him, he can't really stop you by ulting you backwards, so long as you time your mobility correctly. And that will be the Lissandra locked in, so it looks like we're seeing Han Solo bringing out a top Fizz this game.
Yeah, that one's going to be interesting. I have not seen a top Fizz in a long time. I'm interested to see what he'll build. Tanky top laner assassins aren't really. I mean, they're tanky top laners in general are the meta. We've been seeing some videos of even like a Talon going super tanky because you can just deal out a ton of damage. I think it was from Valkyrie that he did that one. You can still deal a ton of damage going tank as long as you're an assassin. If you land Chum of Waters, you're still going to get that damage amplification too. So we might be seeing a tanky Fizz coming out here, and that might be a little bit of something that Carnegie Mellon might not be prepared for.
Yeah, that's the thing about these assassins building off tank or full tank. They don't need to do enough damage to kill the tanks. That was never their job in the first place. So it doesn't matter if he can't 1v1 Mega Zero. He just has to do enough damage to kill Coggles or at least threaten Coggles or Quicks. And if a Iceborne Gauntlet Sunfire Cape build still allows you to do that, there's no reason not to build that and not only be a threat to the backline, but also be nigh on impossible to kill yourself.
Yeah, I mean, with the Lissandra lock-in, I do like McMaster's comp a lot better, knowing that that might be a tank Fizz. That makes me feel a lot better about their initiation, their comp, more so than it did with Fizz mid. I didn't really like that. I do like Lissandra a lot more. I think she does well against an Azir, or at least can stay safe in farm, which is what you want to do for sure. And also, you can get past Emperor's Divide, because Glacial Path goes through it. It's not technically a, yeah, it's kind of like a, I guess like a transport. It's not a dash or anything like that. So there's a way around that, but we do see Quicks taking the cleanse as well. Maybe may need that coming into this matchup.
Yeah, it's pretty standard to grab when you're up against the Lissandra mid. It is a safety button against being 100 to 0 by the Lissandra combo. But yeah, now the delay counting down just about 2 minutes.
Yes.
I'll toss it back over to you, Fed.
Yeah, because we do have to give a shout out to our sponsors, Twitch.tv. They feature our matches weekly, as you probably know because you're watching them here. If you're not, then you should probably, I don't know, think about what you're doing in life, because that's because we're not broadcasting. At least I'm not broadcasting anything other than Twitch. So thank you for sponsoring us, and of course, Brain Gear. They are a NSF certified 2-ounce formula that provides focus and clarity that you can feel good about, and also long-term benefits that you can feel good about. So go check them out on Twitter at BrainGear and use the hashtag ThinkBig. And of course, also go check out Azus ROG at Azus_ROG. That stands for Azus Republic of Gamers. They're the reason why we are able to go to DreamHack. They're providing the funding, the prize pool, and getting the players out there. So one of these two teams, they'll have to thank, well, both of the teams really should thank Azus ROG for allowing this tournament to happen, but one of these teams going to go to DreamHack due to Azus ROG's funding. So go thank them on Twitter. Thank them for sponsoring the CSL. I know I'm thankful. My name is Joshua FX Quest. I'm here with Octavian. We'll be back on the Rift in about 1 minute. Alright, we are into game number 1. This is it, Octavian, the last quarterfinal of the year, of the season for CSL. One of these teams, I'm going to go meet in DreamHack. I'm really excited, and I want to know which one it's going to be. So we have some grouping coming out from Carnegie Mellon side while a line of scrimmage being drawn. Going to have an invade here.
Yeah, you may have to take up the banner of solo casting here for a little bit, Fekes, as my client seems to be uncooperative.
No problem. No problem. So what just happened is a dark binding was thrown out, and Han Solo got the playful trickster just in time to dodge that one. So failed attempt at the invade, but not much lost. You're gonna take maybe more likely going to take dark binding anyways if you're Mino Haxor. Or the other alternative is a black shield, but it'll be alright. So I want to point out Han Solo's name. I really like that. Throwback to Heroes of Newerth, as the H-O-N is capitalized, the H and the N. Heroes of Newerth. We'll go in old school on that one. I haven't heard a reference to Heroes of Newerth. I think it's Newerth or New Wrath. I don't even remember, but that one's interesting. I like that name. Good job. But maybe having a lane swap here, as Han Solo sticking top lane for not Carnegie Mellon, McMaster, sorry about that, while Coggle's going top lane. Hold on here, gonna have some shenanigans in the jungle. Dark Binding missed once again, he's actually 0 for 2. Mino Haxor is not a very good start for those Dark Bindings.
And I am able to see the action now. I apologize for that, Fekes. The lead client was not being cooperative with me earlier, but I've managed to convince it to help me out.
Yeah, no problem, man.
It looks like McMaster's red side is going to get an XP lead here as they take down the Gromp. That's not going to be the same story for Carnegie Mellon's bottom side, but it's not such a big deal when you're in a lane swap like this.
Yeah, and this is very nicely read by Carnegie Mellon. Han Solo needs to be careful. He's walking by the top lane and jungler of Carnegie Mellon as they're taking away the red buff from Devise. Devise, they're trying to slow him down as much as possible. I'm pretty sure Han Solo saw him. I think that should have been in range of vision for that.
And in a situation like this, the jungle is not split as it usually is horizontally across the map, but instead it's split more vertically, with mid lane kind of being the dividing line, as Carnegie Mellon has taken control of their blue side and the enemy's red side, but that leaves McMaster open to be able to take their blue and the enemy's red as well.
Yeah, if they decide to go down the road, which definitely would make sense for that one, considering no one's there to guard it. So, 4 men strong in the top lane for Carnegie Mellon University. And yeah, the red buff is still up for Carnegie Mellon, but they're pinging the tower, and they probably want to try to match this one as much as possible. But Devise, if he goes over to this red, that means that Carnegie Mellon, they will be able to take down the turret a little bit faster, and having a Lucian there as well, it's definitely going to help take that turret down faster.
Yeah, and in this kind of play that's all map focused and about where you position yourselves in the very, very early game, whoever falls behind is going to lose that tower first, is going to lose an XP advantage, and it's all about who's willing to go further. And it looks like here Carnegie Mellon is willing to take another step forward and take down a secondary turret.
And why not?
Continue to devote resources topside, because whether they know it or not, they're ahead here, and McMaster's jungler is only just now taking the red buff.
Yeah, and McMaster's jungler is not even helping the bot lane. He's going to go gank the mid lane, which Quicks, he does use that cleanse to get out Flash as well. It's all worth it for Carnegie Mellon, though. They took out 2 towers in the top lane, and that means that they get so much more global gold early on. They're already 1,000 ahead, and so much more map pressure in that top side.
Yeah, usually this kind of lane swap ends up with basically no pressure mid, because both teams send a ton of members top or a ton of members bottom to try and answer back with global gold on turret kills. And so that's why we saw such a aggressive push from Quicks here, not really expecting anybody to come and gank him that early. But here's a neat adaptation. The Rift Herald going to be started off as Carnegie Mellon had the resources on the top side to take it down, and McMaster, of course, had no vision control up here, so they're not going to see it fall.
Yeah, we're going to see who picks this one up. It looks like it's going to be Coggles, who I'd assume would be going to the bot lane. Just going to help him out quite a bit. He's going to be overextended a little bit, so he's going to want to have some empowered minions to back him up. It's not going to help too much as far as that is concerned if he gets ganked, but if Devise shows himself in the top lane while he has that Rift Herald buff, that means that Coggles can actually fast push and take a turret pretty quickly if he wants to.
And it was subtle, but there was a very unlucky moment there for Devise as right while Tegro Please was taking down that crab, it got marked by Mark of the Kindred, and so Devise loses out on his first stack of Mark of the Kindred
Oh,
instantly.
that's sad.
It's just a bad feeling.
Well, yeah, Devise is having kind of a rough time in general right now. It seems like Carnegie Mellon, they have the lane swap figured out a little bit more than McMaster so far, and it may be throwing them a hint on tilt, but it's still very early. Plenty of time to recover from the lane swap advantage that Carnegie Mellon has gotten so far. It's only 6 minutes in.
It looks like McMaster wants to take down an outer turret on top side. They've devoted 3 members up to that side of the map, and that is going to be easier than answering the secondary turret bot would be. Actually, we see Han Solo teleporting away to defend down on the bottom lane outer turret, and he has to do this because Coggles has the Rift Herald buff.
Yeah. And that's going to be the huge telling mark here. But now, Han Solo, he's just going to get bullied off of that turret. And another teleport coming in, this time from Duosec. That is something we haven't pointed out, is that McMaster, they are running double teleport comp. So they do have some
Devise.
pressure. Oh, no, Devise. Yeah, he's caught out. Dark Binding lands. Who's going to pick up the kill here? Quicks might be giving it over to him. First blood does go over to the Azir. Quicks in the mid lane for Carnegie Mellon.
That's an unfortunate catch, as Devise just didn't think that Carnegie Mellon would be moving that quickly towards bottom side, but they had the Rift Herald buff. I mean, you saw the value that that buff drew out. We were talking during yesterday's matches about the sort of questionable value that that buff has, but used in this way, which I haven't seen any team use it before, actually. It pulled out 2 teleports, and I guess you could say it was partially responsible for that catch, since it threw McMaster off so much that they were sending tons of resources down to that side.
Oh, but hold on, another engage coming out. That was a nice Emperor's Divide. Going to keep Duosec at bay at least. Actually uses Flash as well, but Culling coming back. Nobody picks up a kill, but that does mean that McMaster, they get shoved off of that bottom lane turret.
And McMaster did manage to equalize the turrets a bit at least, though, getting that one up on top side while Carnegie Mellon wasn't looking. Megazero trying to catch some farm is going to get bullied away, but there's the turret answered back again, and Carnegie Mellon is still 1 step ahead here.
Yeah, Carnegie Mellon, they're doing a great job in this early game. They've done their homework, done their studying, and they are capitalizing on all the knowledge gained and doing a great job with it right now. Even the single lanes, except for the top lane, Carnegie Mellon pretty much has the CS advantages in their favor. Of course, Quicks, he got that first blood, so that 4 CS detrimental right now. Or it's not very telling, I guess I could say.
Carnegie Mellon takes the dragon off the backside of that push because, of course, they pushed top lane first and got the Rift Herald. Then they swapped around the lanes. They gave up their top lane turret, but they got one bot, answered it back, and picked up a dragon. So
yeah,
they've been on top of these global objectives from minute 1 here.
Yeah, doing a great job. I think I meant to say trivial earlier, by the way, but we'll move on from that one. I'll just correct myself later. Yeah, global pressure, like I said, even with the double teleport from McMaster, the global pressure is on them. Carnegie Mellon, they're doing a great job. They were 1,000 gold up just a few moments ago. Now they're about 1,500. Almost 2,000. Not even 1,500. Almost 2,000 gold up. So within that small time span, they've able to almost double their gold lead, and that's pretty huge. This early in the game, if you can double your gold lead in that short amount of time, you're doing something right. And Carnegie Mellon, they are definitely doing something right. Dark Binding landed onto Duosec. Not much going to follow it up though, because he's underneath the turret, but a little bit of damage from the Sand Soldiers following through.
Yeah, and now with the only outer turrets remaining, both standing in mid lane, we may see some more aggressive moves show up towards the center of the map here. As laning phase has taken a very strange form this game, and there's not really
been one.
there's not really a roadmap of where to go next for these teams. They're working it out on the fly.
Yeah, and again, it's just another thing that Carnegie Mellon is doing better at, mostly because they're initiating every aspect of this odd laning phase, or map rotation they're doing. They're the ones initiating it, while McMaster's left to react to it. They're not taking control of any sort of flow of the gameplay, and it's definitely you can definitely tell right now. But looks like Duosec, he just wants to kind of farm up right now, trying to get into that Rod of Ages. Flash blown by Devise to dodge a Dark Binding. He even has Lamb's Respite, so rather use Flash than a Lamb's Respite right now.
And it looks like this is going to be the tank Fizz, as we were talking about earlier during Champ Select. That's a Bammy Cinder first item. Um, it's certainly an interesting build. I haven't seen it yet in competitive play. I've seen it in solo queue and higher level solo queue a few times at this point, but I'm interested to see how it works out going forwards. Of course, this is not your typical game with the amount of lane swapping we've seen, but we may have a fight on our hands.
Yeah, Chum of the Water's on to Quicks, but he cleanses out of the Glacial Tomb. Han Solo flame projections in, gets the kill, and now McMaster proving that they can take control of this game through these team fights, trying to get into an advantageous position. Tegro, please, goes back in, dies for his effort. Devise throws down the Lamb's Despite, saves his own life. Coggles with a flash from Tall White Bro does go down. Very nicely played, and the Black Shield going to keep Mega Zero alive. Duosec teleporting to the top lane now, going to shove back the wave, but a nice team fight from McMaster shows that they have something up their sleeve for this game.
I mean, yeah, we hadn't actually seen the teams really fight up until this point, and McMaster just skirmishes that one better. To be fair, Carnegie Mellon thought they had the drop on that mid lane turret, and they were a little bit too aggressive trying to take it down. So Mega Zero, the Black Shield had to be burned on him at the very beginning of that fight, so there wasn't spell immunity for Coggles or Quicks, who it's kind of more important to have that on. And from there, it was just sort of falling back a little bit too sloppily and getting hit by too many skill shots. But they're not relenting with their control on the map here. Carnegie Mellon is still looking to take this Rift Herald.
Yeah, they have been very objective-based this whole game so far. In the just a short 12 minutes, it seems like it's been. They've been able to pick up every objective they encounter. So that might be what Carnegie Mellon looks for. Instead of team fights, picking out team fights, might just want to pick out objectives, rotate around the map as much as possible. It's going to be hard, considering McMaster does have the double teleport, but if they can find the team fight on McMaster's side, then it would be advantageous if it goes similar to how the first fight went. But right now, both teams just drawing kind of a line of scrimmage. A lot of vision, by the way, around that Rift Herald area from Carnegie Mellon.
The interesting thing about having so many turrets down this early on in the game is that only the mid lane is really contestable as far as turrets goes. At this point, nobody's really strong enough solo to shove up a lane to a secondary turret and be uncontestable, so those aren't really in the picture unless one team like commits 4 or 5 members to try and go after that and makes some sort of crazy play that way. So both teams are just kind of vying for control in mid lane, which means waves get cleared back and forth, nobody gets any good damage in, and they're just looking for openings.
Yeah, and Master, they're trying to keep the openings on their side reduced for sure. That the mid lane turret, it is being poked down slowly but surely, and that is one thing that Carnegie Mellon can do, especially with Nazir. They can poke down these turrets very quickly with the Azir Sand Soldiers, and of course the well, actually you don't really use the Sand Soldiers for to poke down turrets. You just kind of like sacrifice them into the material. I don't know. Either way, yeah.
But there's the key to open the lock to getting that last outer turret. They have the Rift Herald buff. Of course, they'd already wounded it from a previous shove, but the Rift Herald buff just makes it entirely uncontestable, and McMaster has to back off. Carnegie Mellon has made absolutely wonderful use of this Rift Herald buff every time they've had it, and it's really demonstrating the value of that, which a lot of other teams haven't bought into.
Yeah, I think that's something we actually talked about yesterday, was how undervalued the Rift Herald is, and this is a great example of why it's undervalued, or how teams underutilize it, and how to utilize it properly. Dark Binding hitting a field goal there, but you want to hit a champion rather than that, but still going to try to go in onto this Devise. He's caught out a little bit in a bad position, but they're actually driving them back. McMaster going on the offensive, Coggles from the side with the calling coming out, but Lamb's Respite going to save one on that exchange. And now curtain call time. Who's gonna get the curtain call? It's Quicks from the last shot from Tall White Bro. So far 2 down for Carnegie Mellon. Devise, he's gonna try to pick out a third here, and I think they're going to get it. Tegro, there's a flash. Devise actually goes down. Never mind, Carnegie Mellon maybe trying to come back into this one, but Tall White Bro still picking up kills. Janet Mechanics picking up a kill for himself as well. Overall, that was a 4-for-1, I believe, in favor of McMaster.
Yeah, and I feel like Carnegie Mellon could have had that fight. I mean, they're the ones who opted into it. They engaged there with the Nautilus ulti back on the Tall White Bro. But Nautilus by himself isn't a huge threat to a Jhin, especially when he's got his support around John Mechanics to peel back for him. And that's really what was wrong with that engage. Mega Zero was by himself. He dropped the depth charge, he landed the hook, But on the other side of the fight, Tegro was leaping back in onto Han Solo, maybe forgetting that this isn't a assassin Fizz that he can blow up, but is rather a tanky Fizz who's not going to go down easily. So they split their focus in that fight, and Carnegie Mellon, while they've had control of the map for the majority of this match and have brilliantly rotated and picked up as many objectives as they possibly can, they haven't shown that they can win these skirmishes, and they've been a bit disorganized whenever fights actually do break out.
Yeah, it's interesting to see, because they've been playing the map so well. You would think that they would be able to team fight just as well, but you definitely see strengths and weaknesses coming out from both teams. And McMaster, they have the team fight advantage. They have the team fight prowess, the how to do it. So very interested to see where this game goes. It's still extremely even despite the 2-7 kill spread right now. 4 turrets to 2 in favor of Carnegie Mellon because that's just them taking advantage of what they can do best. And the kill is the KDA, of course. McMaster taking advantage of what they can do best. Dark Bindings. Man, maybe no Hacksword. He needs to land more of these Dark Bindings, though. That is pivotal for any of these team fights.
I don't know if they really want a team fight at this point. But the thing is, secondary turrets are much harder to get than primary turrets. The only reason secondary turrets have fallen in this game, or one has, pardon me, fallen in this game, is because they were left uncontested on it as a 4-man unit in the early game. Actually trying to shove one in while there's a team defending it is a much different matter. So there's really nothing left for Carnegie Mellon to take easily, even if they do rotate really well, at least not until they get a few more items and can threaten those turrets more quickly. The well is kind of run dry, and now they need to fight if they want to get anything else.
Of course, Dragon was taken. So we talk about objective control. If McMaster can win these team fights, they can take objectives as well. And that will translate pretty heavily into the mid-game once these team fights get more prevalent. In the early game, death timers are so low, they're not a huge detriment, but whenever it gets, the death timers get longer, McMaster's team fights are going to be more and more valuable for them. So yeah, it's objective control or not in the early game. If you die in the mid-game, your opponent is going to take the objective.
I'd be interested to see if Carnegie Mellon has any more Rift Herald related tricks up their sleeves. Is that it just respawn one more time? And this is likely going to be the final time it respawns. Actually, whether it's taken or not, it will be, since we're at 17 minutes, and of course it does give way to Baron Nashor once we hit the 20-minute mark. So that is on the table once again, but it doesn't seem to be priority anymore, with all of the outer turrets having been taken already.
Right, yeah, it's this is the interesting part right now. You were talking about Carnegie Mellon, they're kind of running out of objectives right now because they have to shove in very hard to get more turrets. And yeah, they got that extremely fast gold lead, and now they're actually kind of losing it because of these team fights. So they need to really focus on these. They can't push in too much, so it's an interesting position that they are in. I think they're just waiting for McMaster to capitalize now, because I believe both team fights have actually been initiated by Carnegie Mellon, and they've kind of gone awry. So this might be Carnegie Mellon trying to wait for McMaster to initiate and see if they can get the counter engage. Lamb's Respite helps so much for these counter engages. It's
played
huge in these team fights, but with McMaster's presence, they take the Rift Herald.
Yeah, they give a nod towards objectives themselves and pick up the Rift Herald. And they've still got outer turrets to break, or outer turrets singular, I should say, in the mid lane. But it looks like they're trying to collapse down here onto Tegro, please. Maybe not the right call, as he is pretty far up that lane already. They're devoting a lot of members to the bottom side of the map. It looks like they just want to deny this Mark of the Kindred. They're taking down the crab very quickly.
Oh, Mino Haxor, he is caught and deleted. That's what McMaster needs to get anything they want. So catching objectives, that will definitely, or catching enemies out of position, that will definitely net you objectives. But they don't have much of a wave in the mid lane. Oh, hold on now. Han Solo, he's Fizz. He can get out, no problem. Playful Trickster's out. And this is one thing now, Duosec does not have Glacial Tomb. They have empowered minions here from the Rift Herald. They're going to just back off, play it a little cool here, take their kill and run.
Yeah, and Mino Haxor has already respawned. I mean, it doesn't look like it, but you have to remember that this game is still just about only now hitting the 20-minute mark. We have a lot of turrets down and a lot of Heralds and Dragons taken for being that early on,
yeah.
But it's just been a very action-packed start.
Yeah, that is That's a good way of putting it for sure. Dark Binding. I'm still not sure if those are landing as much as they need to be. You know, Haxor. It's gonna be huge. I think once he gets a Zhonya's, his initiation will be a lot better. And that's the thing. Both of these teams, they have great initiation. It's just McMaster. They're pulling the trigger a lot harder, a lot faster. And it's paying off for them so far. And especially with this Rift Herald buff, it's going to be hard sieging into this turret, considering how much damage, or how little damage, I should say, magic does to the empowered minions. But I think it actually just fell off. Coggles, not going to be caught too much, but the tidal wave is actually out for Jana Mechanics. That's a big disengage gone for McMaster.
Speaking of Jana Mechanics, I'd just like to take a moment and look at this Nami build. He's got the Ionian boots, and he's rushed those already into Captain. We've seen a lot of boot enchantments really early on in these matches so far. Maybe these players are onto something there. And on top of that, he's got a Tear of the Goddess, which maybe he's going to be turning that into an Archangel. That's the only thing I can think of.
That one's an interesting one. Yeah, you're not going to go Muramana with a...
Yeah, not as Nami support. That means that there's going to be a lack of some of those items that you expect to come out of supports a lot of the time. The aura items, things like a Locket or a Frozen Heart.
So, second dragon picked up for Carnegie Mellon. Tegro, please. Gonna have to tunnel out of that that dragon pit, I should say. And I actually really like the captain boots from Jana Mechanics, considering how much they've been turning these team fights. Those captain boots just help them chase down so much more. And they already have a very mobile team with a Fizz, with a Kindred and a Lissandra. That'll really help Tall White Bro and Jana Mechanics herself get into those team fights where they need to be as fast as they need to be. I really like those captain pickups. Something, little tiny thing that's really making a difference here in my opinion.
Another note, and I promise after this I'll get off the Nami build, but another note about Jana Mechanics build. I'm an avid support player myself, so I'm really interested in this. He's got 59 AP, and if you look at his inventory, he's got Eye of the Watchers, which gives a little bit of AP, 25, that's about it. So he's got a lot of ability power coming out of Runes and Masteries there. Very aggressive Nami.
Oh, there's the Playful Trickster going in onto Quicks, but he is exhausted, so not as much damage. Devise, though, picking up a kill onto Tegro, please, and the curtain call coming out from the backline. Coggles does go down. Han Solo picking up that kill, gonna flash and Playful Trickster into who he can. McMaster running all over Carnegie Mellon. Quicks, he goes down. That's an ace for McMaster. That was a clean ace, 5 for 0.
Yeah, they're just...
They're team fight.
They're playing these team fights so sloppy. They're investing way too much into Han Solo, and they may be losing Baron for this one.
Oh, man.
It's early in the game. This Baron's going to do a lot of damage, but of course there's nobody alive to contest it, so it doesn't matter if they drop low so long as they don't get executed, and I don't think that's quite going to happen.
No, and Lamb's Respite's actually still up, so there's almost no way they could have gotten executed unless one of them just wanted to die. But yeah, Lamb's Respite wasn't even used during that. That's a big thing. Devise held onto that. Duosec stayed in the mid lane, got ahead and picked up the outer turret, and almost even up this turret, turret lead that Carnegie Mellon still has on. It's 4 turrets to 3 right now, but the gold lead definitely in the favor of McMaster by 4,000, over 4,000. Oh, no, actually, yeah, actually a little bit over 4,000, almost 5,000. 2 kills to 13 for McMaster. These team fights, they know how to execute on these team fights.
Yeah, and I think a lesson that this game teaches us is that you can have all the early game gold and advantages in the world, but if you don't do anything with them in the mid game, then it's not going to matter. That's the point of getting the early turrets. That's the point of getting the good rotations and the dragons and the Rift Heralds and whatever else have you. You then use that advantage to build more advantages. And if you can't do that and, like Carnegie Mellon, just kind of wander around lost for a few minutes, you eventually will have the enemy team catch up to you. And now more than catch up to you, as McMaster, as you said, is a significant distance ahead.
Yeah, very much so. And this is really playing to the mechanics of McMaster, because Carnegie Mellon, they don't have a bad team fight. I actually thought it looked very good coming out from Champion Select, considering the front line that they have, but nobody's scaled up to the point where they can be tanky. And speaking of scaling, that's the thing. McMaster, they have a Jhin, they have a Lissandra, they have a Kindred. Scaling is not a thing they're lacking either. So this is actually looking really scary going into the mid game for Carnegie Mellon.
And another note about support builds, which I know I harp on a little too often sometimes, but that's a Zeke's Harbinger here from Haxor. Very early pickup on that. neither support build has been very meta, I suppose, is what you could say. But both of them seem to be doing decent enough work. Meanwhile, on top lane, we have a battle of the tanks. And my god, this is just the power of tank Fizz right now.
Yeah.
Iceborne Gauntlet, Spear of Visage, and I guess Mini Sunfire Cape. And he's untouchable, and he still outputs that much damage. He still shreds through Tigeroplee's hit points.
Some would say that's quite ridiculous. I am one of those people.
I mean, he's 4-0 and 5, and a lot of champs become ridiculous at that point.
Oh, yeah. But let's take a look at the levels. See, at the time that it was happening, Tigeroplee's was the same level as Han Solo. He has... Tigeroplee's is pretty tanky himself, but the fact that Fizz can just do that because of his base stats, it's pretty ridiculous. It's good to take advantage of if you are a Fizz player, though. And as I was mentioning that, McMaster able to take out the bot lane inner turret. So they evened up the turrets in this game. It took them 26 minutes to even up the turrets, but through fantastic team fighting, they have pulled way ahead, and now they're in a position to probably run away with this game.
Better late than never. I mean, and they've more than made up for the difference in the early game. It's going to be a matter of where and when they can pick these fights. So far, Carnegie Mellon has kind of opted into every single fight. McMaster has taken advantage of them, for sure, but at this point now, McMaster is in the driver's seat, and they have to make the moves, and we'll see if they can, or if they suffer from the same syndrome that Carnegie had, where they simply don't know what to do next, and they fall backwards when presented with something.
Only time will tell, as it's not even early in the game anymore. It's at a pretty big deciding factor, and items being complete for 4 members on Carnegie Mellon. You have Nashor's Tooth and Abyssal Scepter for Quicks. It's going to help him quite a bit taking a dive from solo and duosec, but he needs to be able to dish out more damage. Nashor's Tooth going to help him out a little bit with that, but he's still fairly squishy if Device can get into his face.
Speaking of important items, we've also got the Sated Devourer, of course, completed for Devise, but alongside that will be a Runon's Hurricane, the favored build for these Kindred junglers, because you just output so much damage during these team fights.
So much percent health damage.
And so much damage to these dragons, which is taken down here.
Yeah.
Jungle Mechanics is very liberal using that bubble just for the movement speed to get around the map, as, of course, for those of you not aware, any ability that Nami lands on an ally will give them movement speed, including not just the targeted abilities like the heal and the Tidecollar's Blessing, but, of course, her Aqua Prison?
Aqua Prison, yep.
Yes, Aqua Prison. The bubble, as it's colloquially known, and the ult.
Yeah, the Tidal Wave as well does that. So when it passes through everybody, they also get a speed boost. And if they're going to be chasing somebody through that Tidal Wave, they get a speed boost from the Nami passive and the Captain Boots passive. So huge amount of just outright running at your face engage coming out from McMaster. The only thing they're missing is an Udyr, but when you have a Kindred that's 3-2-6 and has a stacked Devourer, you don't really need an Udyr. You can be fine with it. With the I think it's called Dance of Arrows, you can hop in your face no problem. So, man, Janna mechanics, like I said, little subtle things I really like, and that's definitely something that is subtle. I feel like definitely making a huge difference with the mobility from McMaster, keeping Carnegie Mellon on the back foot.
I mean, if you like little subtle things, you might like this. Then Janna Mechanics is running the 45% CDR mastery.
Oh yeah,
and because he's got a build that's stacked up CDR basically immediately as soon as he's picked up these items. He has Tidecollar's Blessing up almost constantly. I think there's 1 second of downtime on Tidecollar's Blessing, maybe a little less than that even. So Tall White Bro, if he's standing next to Janna Mechanics, is always going to get the extra bonus magic damage from this Nami, who's building AP with a Morello, so that extra bonus magic damage is going to be pretty significant, and it's going to make it so that Jhin can probably almost one-shot Coggles, maybe two-shot him. This is some real synergy, and I like it quite a bit here.
Yeah, it's pretty fascinating to watch. You have to think, McMaster right now, they are just keeping the timer on Baron, waiting for it to come up so they can pull the trigger indefinitely whenever it comes time, because I feel like they could team fight right now, but I know they'll be able to team fight whenever they have Baron.
They're trying to pick a fight here.
Trying to get something. Tidal Wave goes out. Han Solo, there's the flash onto Coggles, and he gets locked down by Duosec. Tall White Bro picking up that kill. That was an immediate deletion of damage taken away from Carnegie Mellon. and not much really given back to McMaster. Full health bars except for Jana mechanics, and she'll just heal that right back up with ebb and flow.
They traded Duosec Summoner spells for that team fight, but it looks like we're going to be seeing another one here.
Curtain call time, but I don't think he's going to be able to pick anyway. Anyway, actually, Tegro, please, maybe going down with the curtain call, but Han Solo into the front lines. He's going to get in and get out, taking huge advantage of that playful trickster. Tegro, please. He got shoved back, and that might be what McMaster uses. Hold on! Han Solo caught out. Dark Binding in the bush. He has to flash out, and now another playful trickster. You cannot lock him down. It is almost impossible right now. He's 405. He actually has CDR from a Spirit Visage, and I believe his Iceborne Gauntlet too. Correct me if I'm wrong on that one. So very low cooldown, comparatively on that playful trickster.
Yeah, Fizz doesn't really get caught out, especially not Tank Fizz. He's able to survive damage output back onto him long enough.
Some of the Waters! Some of the Waters is back up! He just used it. Tegro, please, he's caught. He's going to go down. Devise going to pick up that kill. That is a jungler for Carnegie Mellon down, which means that is not going to be a jungle steal in their future. Baron steal, I'm sorry. Jungle steal. He's in the jungle. He's actually in the river.
That is Baron started off. Megazero looking to pick a fight here, though, to try and prevent it.
Duosec, he gets in the face of Mino Haxer, but so does Han Solo. Exhaust used onto him, but he still picks up the kill. Tank Fizz. This is running out of control. In fact, it's already, I guess I should say it's been out of control. Curtain call. Who's it going to be? Quicks. He gets hit with 2 shots. One more will do it. Tall White Bro picks it up in the end with the last shot. Coggles, he revived during this entire time. Came back, died again. McMaster, my god. 4 for nothing.
Every single team fight we've seen, McMaster has handled beautifully.
Incredible.
And this is what I was talking about with Han Solo's Tank Fizz. I mean, being 5-0 really does help the archetype flourish quite a bit, but one way or the other, you only need to do enough damage to kill the enemy AD carry. You know, overkill doesn't matter. So long as you can kill him, it's better to also not die yourself. And that's why tanky champions have become so prolific through the current meta, because there's no point in playing Fizz as an assassin when he can still kill the enemy AD carry, but also get away with more than half of his health left and still ready to fight another 2 minutes during the team fight, or use his ulti again 40 seconds later, as we saw there.
Oh my god, yeah,
this
that's
Tank
insane.
Fizz is, honestly, I think, proving just as useful as an Assassin Fizz would be for deleting the enemy backline, while also serving the dual role of being his own team's frontline.
Yeah, it definitely makes me want to play top lane Tank Fizz in my solo queue, because if anything it needs to happen in solo queue, it's me being 2 or 3 roles at once, and Han Solo is showing that you can do that with a Fizz. It's so hard to even gather words to say how weird it is that he's getting away with what he's doing. Hold on, depth charge on the Janne mechanics. Carnegie Mellon, they may have him caught out. Finally going to go down. Megazero picks up that kill. It's 33 minutes in. That's a 3rd kill for Carnegie Mellon, and it's on the support.
Yeah, 1 every 10 minutes is not the kind of ratio you look for, as
No.
Han Solo with those Baron buff minions will take down a turn in topside. Iceborne Gauntlet as well, very useful for bringing down turrets. And the Sunfire useful for split pushing, because so not only is he a assassin to the back line, a front line for his team, but he's also a split pushing threat. He's a triple threat top laner.
Yeah. A lot of power on Solo right now. And that's overshadowing. Tall White Bro is doing fantastic with these curtain calls. Duosec being a great engager. Devise being whatever a Kindred does, you know, the massive amount of damage.
Whatever that champion.
Yeah, Janna mechanics. We've been harping on Janna mechanic builds, which, by the way, picked up the Archangel staff. We've been harping on Janna mechanics and how subtle the advantages that he's taking on this Nami support. But I feel like a solo on this Fizz really throwing it up for me, though. It's just incredible watching him play this right now, considering I have not seen a top lane tank Fizz since he got nerfed a long time ago. It was like before preseason, I believe. And now he's showing that he can still do it.
The reason I think why Tall White Bro is doing so well is, well, partially because of his own mechanical play. He's been playing a well-played Jhin. I don't want to take that away from him, but also Jhin really does flourish when the enemy backline has to deal with other things, and he can just pop into his ulti, fire off a few shots, get those assists, pick up the kills with the 4th shot, and then come in and wreak havoc once the enemy team is all down below half health. Bouncing Grenade, of course, does a lot of work then as well. And having such a powerful front line to hide behind is really, really good for a carry like Jhin. And if you're Carnegie Mellon, you have to be asking yourselves, where did this game go wrong? It had such a great start, and it's just fallen to pieces.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think you mentioned it earlier, is that they had the advantage early on. They just weren't able to pull the trigger or didn't do anything with that trigger that they were holding. So that's one thing. It took very little time for McMaster to really take off with this one, and it seemed like it took so much effort for Carnegie Mellon in the early game to establish a dominating lead, maybe even to try to demoralize McMaster, but it did not work. They lost every team fight. I've not seen them win one team fight, which is why they only have 3 kills. And now they're pushing on into the inner mid lane turret. Tidal Wave coming out from the side. It's going to disrupt a lot of Carnegie Mellon, but with no wave, McMaster has to think a little bit about drawing this one out. They're not able to just force their way into this turret.
Han Solo is absolutely dedicated to this tank build. He's not even giving a passing glance to damage.
No.
He picks up a Randuin's Omen as his 4th item. He is really the front line for his team, which is... I didn't think I'd ever see the day when I said that about Fizz. I think he's getting caught out.
Yeah, they caught out a Nautilus, and were able to delete him as a Quick's going down, as well as Tegro, please. And now, curtain call time for Mino Haxorus. He's going to go down. Double kill for Tall White Bro, 4 for 0. And it's going to be a clean ace once Han Solo gets done with Coggles. And there it is. Clean ace, 3-23 in favor of McMaster University. They caught out a Nautilus, guys, and... don't just catch out a Nautilus, but McMaster says, yes, you do.
Han Solo tanked the turret for most of that fight.
Yeah, it's incredible.
If you look at his health bar, it's not very low. This is a, hopefully not so slow from this point onwards, but a decently slow and painful death for Carnegie Mellon, who had a great early game. They really outmaneuvered McMaster in every way, but they were sloppy in their team fights. They didn't pick the correct movements moving into the mid game, and that's what matters. It's how you end, it's not how you begin.
Yeah, that's true, and the Nexus is what you want. That is the main objective, and if you don't get that, then objective control in the early game does not matter. McMaster, they won every team fight. They did not die, or they did not lose a team fight, I should say. They only died 3 times. 2 times from Devise, 1 time from Jana Mechanics. Everyone else stayed alive that entire game. Fantastic play from McMaster. I don't think you could ask for too much more if you're the coordinator from McMaster University.
And I want to see a Fizz ban
in
Jesus. Game number 2, because he went absolutely insane. And the problem is, though, there's a lot of champs that do that in the current meta, you know? There's Fizz tank top and Echo tank top, which are the 2 most prolific, but you also have things like the Akali tank, which is come in and out of the meta here and there, and the even weirder ones like Karma tank.
Yeah.
You can't deny every single tank, but I think Fizz was so powerful there that you should at least deny that one.
I definitely agree. There's actually a lot to think about, because Kindred was huge in that as well. So we'll see what happens in the next pick and ban phase. My name is Joshua Fekes Quest here with Octavian. The winner of this today's best of 3 will go on to Austin, Texas in DreamHack. In Austin, Texas to DreamHack. I think that's a more appropriate way to say it. Either way, they will be taking on Robert Morris University in the semifinals. So stick around. We'll be back in just a moment.